It was a crisp autumn evening when Sarah, Mike, and Jess arrived at the Allegheny National Forest. They had planned this camping trip for weeks, eager to escape the hustle and bustle of city life. As they set up their tent near the edge of a dense thicket, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the towering trees. The night began with laughter around the campfire, the trio sharing stories and toasting marshmallows. As the fire's warmth ebbed, an eerie silence settled over the forest, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl. It was then that they heard the first thud. "Did you hear that?" Jess whispered, her eyes darting around the darkened woods. Mike shrugged. "Probably just a deer or something, nothing to worry about." But the thudding continued, growing louder and more insistent. It sounded like rocks being thrown against the trees nearby. The friends exchanged nervous glances, the previous levity of the evening replaced by a creeping sense of dread. Suddenly, a rock landed just inches from the campfire, scattering embers. Sarah yelped, jumping to her feet. "Who's out there?" she called, but her voice was swallowed by the forest. Silence followed, thick and oppressive. Then from the shadows, they saw movement. Dark figures flitted between the trees, too fast and too silent to be human. Panic set in as more rocks began to pelt their campsite, each one closer than the last. "Let's get inside the tent," Mike urged. They scrambled into the tent, zipping it shut as if the thin fabric could protect them from whatever lurked outside. Inside, they huddled together, straining to hear any sounds over their racing hearts. The rock throwing ceased, replaced by an unsettling rustling and low murmurs that seemed to circle their tent. Jess clutched a flashlight, her hand trembling as she turned it on. The weak beam barely pierced the thick darkness outside. Minutes felt like hours as they waited, the forest around them unnaturally still. Just when they thought it was over, a guttural growl resonated through the air, followed by a deep, mocking laugh. Unable to bear the tension any longer, Mike peeked out of the tent flap. His gasp was enough to make Sarah and Jess turn, following his horrified gaze. Standing just at the edge of the firelight was a tall, shadowy figure, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent intelligence. Before they could react, the figure stepped back into the darkness, disappearing as quickly as it had come. The rock stopped, and the forest fell silent once more. The friends spent a sleepless night in the tent, clutching each other in fear. At dawn, they hastily packed up and left, their camping trip cut short by the terror they couldn't explain. As they drove away, Jess glanced back at the forest. She swore she saw the shadowy figure watching them from the trees, a sinister grin etched into its face. They never spoke of the incident again, but the memory of that night haunted their dreams, a reminder of the unknown horrors that lurked in the Allegheny National Forest. Months passed, but the memory of that terrifying night in the forest never left them. Determined to find some closure, Sarah began researching the history of Allegheny National Forest. She discovered numerous accounts of strange occurrences dating back decades, unexplained disappearances, eerie noises, and sightings of shadowy figures. Local legends spoke of a malevolent spirit that haunted the forest, angered by the disturbance of its resting place. Sarah shared her findings with Mike and Jess, who reluctantly agreed to return to the forest, this time armed with knowledge and a plan. They hoped to uncover the truth behind the mysterious rock-throwing incident and put their fears to rest. Equipped with cameras, recording devices, and a sense of determination, they set out for the forest once more. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the atmosphere grew heavy with tension. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, sinister shadows across their path. They reached their previous campsite just as darkness fell. The fire pit was still there, surrounded by scattered rocks, a chilling reminder of their last visit. They set up their equipment and waited, nerves on edge. Hours passed with no signs of activity. Just as they began to relax, the first rock came hurtling out of the darkness, landing with a heavy thud near the fire pit. Heartbeats quickened as they turned on their cameras and recorders, capturing every sound and movement. The rock throwing intensified, and the familiar rustling and murmurs surrounded them once more. Jess, trembling but resolute, shone her flashlight into the trees. The beam caught the fleeting image of a dark figure, its eyes gleaming with the same malevolence they had seen before. Determined not to flee this time, Sarah called out, "Who are you? What do you want?" For a moment the forest was silent. Then a deep resonant voice echoed through the trees, chilling them to the bone. "Leave this place. You do not belong here." The figure stepped into the firelight, revealing a gaunt, spectral form. It raised an arm, pointing a bony finger at them. "Disturb my rest and you will suffer." Desperation fueled their bravery. "We just want to understand," Mike pleaded. "Why are you here?" The spirit's eyes flashed with anger. "I was wronged, my land taken, my spirit trapped. I seek vengeance on those who desecrate this forest." Realization dawned on Sarah. "The logging, the destruction. You're one of the original inhabitants, aren't you?" The spirit nodded slowly, sorrow and rage mingling in its gaze. "Yes, my people lived in harmony with this land. When the settlers came, they brought ruin and death. Now my spirit remains bound to this place." "How can we help you find peace?" Jess asked, her voice trembling. The spirit's expression softened and it lowered its arm. "Restore what was lost. Honor the land and its history. Only then will I be free." With a sense of purpose, the friends vowed to do everything in their power to help the restless spirit. They spent the following weeks raising awareness about the forest's history, organizing cleanup efforts, and advocating for the preservation of its natural beauty. As word spread, others joined their cause and the forest began to heal. Trees were planted, trails restored, and the memory of the land's original inhabitants honored through plaques and ceremonies. Months later, the trio returned to the forest. The air felt lighter, the atmosphere less oppressive. They reached their old campsite, now a place of tranquility and reverence. As they stood in the clearing, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and a sense of peace washed over them. They knew the spirit had found rest at last. The Allegheny National Forest remained a place of beauty and mystery, but the terror of that autumn night had given way to a deeper understanding and respect for the land and its history. Years passed, and the story of the spirit of Allegheny National Forest became a well-known legend. The forest, now a symbol of reconciliation and respect, attracted visitors not just for its beauty, but for its history and the story of the spirit that once haunted its woods. One spring, a new group of campers set up their tents near the same clearing where Sarah, Mike, and Jess had their fateful encounters. Among them was a historian named Emily, fascinated by the tales of the forest. She had come not just to camp, but to learn and document the stories of those who had experienced the forest's mysteries. As the night wore on, Emily sat by the fire, flipping through her notes. She had read about the efforts to restore the forest and honor its history, and how the strange occurrences had ceased. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Around midnight, as the fire crackled and the campers began to drift to sleep, Emily noticed a faint glow in the trees. She followed the light, her curiosity piqued. It led her to a small, overgrown path she hadn't noticed before. As she ventured down the path, the air grew cooler, and the forest around her seemed to whisper secrets long forgotten. The path ended at a small clearing, where an ancient tree stood, its roots gnarled and its branches reaching skyward. Beneath the tree, a stone marker was partially buried in the underbrush. Emily brushed away the leaves and dirt, revealing an inscription. "Here rests the spirit of the forest, guardian and protector. Honor the past, preserve the future." A sense of reverence washed over her. She knelt by the marker, whispering a quiet promise to continue the work of those who had come before her. As she rose to leave, the glow returned, brighter and more defined. The spirit appeared, no longer a figure of terror but a serene presence. It nodded at Emily, its eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," it whispered, and then the light faded, leaving Emily alone in the peaceful clearing. Emily returned to the campsite, her heart lighter and her mind buzzing with the significance of what she had witnessed. She knew the forest's story was far from over, and she was now a part of its ongoing legacy. From that day forward, Emily dedicated her life to the preservation and protection of the Allegheny National Forest, ensuring that the spirit's message of respect and reverence for the land would never be forgotten. The forest thrived, a testament to the enduring bond between humanity and nature, and the spirit watched over it finally at peace.